Greetings. I feel like I was just talking to you. That's a little joke. I had a viewer, a subscriber, ask a question. Actually, I've had two ask the question, but the most recent person was asking about tarot, a general tarot question, and she was asking something about reading the, I think her words were reading the bright side of a dark card. And I guess whether that was appropriate was her question, or how you do that, or I'm not exactly sure where she was coming from. I don't recall, but I know other people have had this issue come up in the past. So many of us, when we're beginning tarot, we come under the impression that these are good cards, these are bad cards. That's a very common kind of a reaction to cards in the beginning, at least in the beginning. Some people seem to keep those reactions throughout the lifetime of reading. I don't. I am a firm believer of the theory that every card is both positive and negative. Everything that happens in life is both positive and negative. You know that from your life experiences, no matter how old you are learning that. That inside, right, there's so many expressions that we use to describe that kind of a sentiment, right? The silver lining inside the cloud, or the sun is going to come out tomorrow, or, there's always something. Those of us who garden, who walk the wheel of the year, know that there can be no birth until there is death. The old has to, go to seed and die for the new plant to be born. That's just the way of life. So why would it be any different in tarot? Well, because we're talking about the energies that are around us, that are surrounding us here in this lifetime. And so we're going to see both positive and negative energies in every card. It might be very hidden. It might be very hidden. Even in something that is truly, truly positive, like the Sun card or something. The Sun card is a very, seeing things clearly. It's a bright card. There's the caution in the card about holding on, not being able to let go of things. Okay. Even in the world card, the very end of the Fool's Journey, where there's a promise of some kind of success, the journey is complete at that point, and what happens at the end of a journey is complete. You got to start a new one. You don't just stay in that same sense of aura of celebration that comes at the end of completing something satisfactorily. You got to start again. That's a life lesson. So it's going to hold same and true in the tarot cards. So every card, some cards have very obvious dark and light, if you want to call it dark and light. Others are a little more subtle. Others, it might just be something like, particularly with the minor arcana. I want to say that, particularly the minor arcana. There's not always so many clues in the minor arcana. You might see, for instance, a three of hearts is a really good example. Oh, do I have the card? I wanted to pull out the card so that I could show you what I was talking about. If I could get it really quickly. It's a very straightforward card. Of course, it's going to probably be on the bottom since I'm trying to find it quickly. Ah, here it is. Okay, the Three of Swords. Well, what could be good about that? There's three swords piercing a heart. What could be good about that? And there's, of course, absolutely, this reads of loss, this reads of separation, this reads of misunderstanding. Yes, some kind of communication has broken down. But what do we know about this card other than that? We also know that this card is in the minor arcana card. Okay? This, we see a lot of these, particularly in swords, and I'm going to show you a few other examples of swords. But remember, it's all about communication, first of all, a lot of it, or ideas. But it's about things that happen quickly. First of all, minor arcana means little things, the small stuff in life. So it's not big, major, bad things. It's not a bad thing. This isn't like the end of your marriage. This is a fight. This isn't the loss of a friendship. This is a misunderstanding. It's a small thing. It can be. It's going to pass. It's going to pass. Okay. It's going to come and go quickly. It's a small thing. So keep that in mind when you're reading. What, other than just the visual clues, remember what it is you're talking about. Okay. So there's that one. Some of them, though, in the major arcana particularly, have very, very clear, since we are talking about major things that are happening, but they have very clear, both have positive and negative in them. And one of the most obvious, of course, has to be the Death card. Now, in some other decks, it might be just totally the end. Dun, dun, dun. But, again, we know that nothing just ends. In order for something new to begin, something must end. It's the end of something and beginning of a new thing. That comes at the same time. That's why the Death card is not sneaking in here and taking you out while you're sleeping. The Death card is coming riding in, parading in with a big flag, with a flower on it, and a big announcement, ta-da! Right? And not everybody is laying around dead. Oh, and notice the one person laying, it is the figure of a king. I think it's a king. King or queen. I think it's a king. If it's a queen, it's a very ugly queen. A king laying dead, and the crown is off the head, laying beside him at the feet of this, under this horse. And what do they say? The king is dead, long live the king. That's what they say. The king is dead, long live the king, which means the king is dead, the old king is gone, there's a new one coming, long live the king. And here we see a small child in the foreground. Ready to take the reins, perhaps? Ready to take the reins. Something new. This is not a dark card. Yes, there's a figure, this skull figure riding the horse. That's kind of dark, unless you're talking to some people that really love skulls. But look at the background. In the background, we see the sun coming up on the horizon. A new day is happening, a new beginning. It's okay. The flag announcing the change. It's going to be a change. It's not. The flag doesn't say it's the end of the world. The flag says something's ending, and there's going to be some kind of change. The sun, and both the sun and the flower on the flag are symbolizing something new to come. Okay, passing of the old into the new. Okay, that's kind of obvious to most. On here, the Rider-Waite is kind of obvious. On another deck, maybe not. That's another reason we kind of say, whatever you're trying to learn, don't overlook the Rider-Waite. Don't completely dismiss it. At least give it a little bit of a look-see, because it's going to help you understand some of the cards. Okay, another card that's very negative, appears to be very negative. By first glance, second glance, third glance, is the Tower card, and the Tower card is a very sudden, very big change. Here comes the lightning striking that tower. What could be good about that? Okay, things are falling from the tower. Now, I've talked about this card before in some of my other things. We see them falling off the tower, but we do not see in this card. This is one of the reasons I like this card. It's a good reminder. We don't see where they're going to land. Like I say, there could be like a bed of feathers underneath there that they're landing on. But whatever, it is a big, sudden, big, major life change. Major arcana, life change. Some big change is going to happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all bad. Now, also, this is a good example, too. Another thing I want to say, when you're looking at what these cards are, is this something that's inevitable? We don't know. It depends, of course, in the position where, if you're doing a reading, is this in the future position? If this is in a future position, all it means in that case, if it's in the past, okay, first of all, if it's in the past position, it has already happened. You can't change it. It's happened in the past, but you're still here to talk about it, so it wasn't the end of everything. You know, you are in the process now of having to rebuild from whatever you're left with after this. If this is in a current position, something coming at you right now, it gives you a warning to brace yourself. Warning, right? In the future, particularly, it's a warning. In the future, it is saying it might happen, it might not happen. Look, take a glance and say, what am I building my tower on? What is the foundation under my tower? What am I building all of my work on? Did I take the time to lay a good foundation? Because if you did, after whatever is coming down off of that, here it's like a mountain, then the mountain's still there and you're going to be able to build again. And that is a lot of sentiment you hear with people that lose everything, like in a fire. After that shock wears off in the mourning for the loss of what they lost, a lot of them are this great sense of being able to start fresh and to start all over again. It's kind of a relief to sometimes. Okay? So, it's not necessarily a horrible thing. Not a horrible thing. It's a big change, yes, but not necessarily all negative. It might also be a warning. What are you spending all your money on? What is your tower? Is it a Trump tower? Couldn't help it. You know, are you spending all your money on things that you don't need? Are you just throwing your money away? Are you being careful? Are you being reckless? It's a warning, okay? Could be a warning. So again, not all negative, not all dark. A lot of light in that. A lot of light in the card. Okay? Another card that we have is the Devil card. Now, this is another very scary card. I told you the funny story about my Christian friend who finally asked for a reading, and I convinced her that it was nothing horrible. And the very first card I dealt was the Devil card, and she about fell over backwards from her chair, because it's a very, in Dax, it's an ominous-looking card, right? It does, you know. But what's it about, really? What's it about, really? The Devil is very big because it's some big thing that's really messing up your life. There's something in your life that is causing you to feel enslaved or entrapped or stuck, or you know, or you're seeing things coming at you that are like bigger than they really are. Like maybe you're making mountains out of molehills. Maybe you're seeing challenges as these giant, horrible things happening to you. Okay? And is it really that bad? And the card invites you to take a look and to see, first of all, what it is that you're chained to. You see these two figures, the male and a woman, chained here at the Devil's feet. The chains don't look like they're terribly unbreakable. Don't look like they can't. They're even kind of loose around their neck. I think they can slip them off over their head if they really tried. Okay? If they really stood up and looked for solutions, there's probably a way to unchain themselves from this. But this is also called the Ego card. It's not necessarily something physically bad that's going to happen to you. Sometimes it's just what is causing you. Sometimes your problems are kind of in your head, making things too important, or thinking, oh, you know, I'm too good to deserve this. I don't deserve this. I'm so much better than this. Or, oh, I'm just not good enough to deserve anything. That kind of, you know, the difference in your ego. Or, I deserve a brand new car. I deserve this house. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go out on a limb and get a huge mortgage because I really deserve the absolute best house, rather than getting something I can really afford. Okay, this card asks you to take a look at yourself. It's not necessarily a bad card, because again, there are solutions here. There are solutions, and we just there's too much Hollywood in most of these cards. Which, to be honest, you know, the whole idea of this horned devil being horrible, and the inverted pentagram at the top, which we know a pentagram. You know, this just means the opposite of. A pentagram meaning, you know, harmony, right? The opposite, disharmony. That's all we're talking about here. Something is a mess, something's awry, but it's asking you to examine down here what is it? What does identify this devil, right? Not necessarily something you cannot control. It's probably completely within your control. Okay, so, another card. Now, if we leave the major arcana for an instance, again, and go back to the minor arcana, and we'll leave We'll leave swords for a minute because we do find a lot of these in swords. But here's one in pentacles, which this is the Five of Pentacles. And this figure, we see this poor, unfortunate couple people walking in the snow. They're not dressed with the snow. The poor woman has bare feet. The poor man has a broken leg or broken foot, trying to make their way through. They don't have warm clothing. It snow's falling. You know, obviously there's a hardship, there's a loss, there's emotional difficulties. Okay. Remember though, look in the background. What do we see? We see the stained glass. We see the stained glass window signifying a church. Now, it's telling you, this card is telling you that there's a solution available to this problem. Whatever problem you have, there's somewhere you can go. There's an offer of a fresh start, going in a different direction. Thinking of yourself, your situation, changing your attitude perhaps, seeing your situation differently, sometimes gives you a chance to overcome whatever's here. Okay? Not necessarily with a church. That's just, remember, a symbol. It's just a symbol. But it's a reminder. Okay? And again, Five of Pentacles, Minor Arcana. This isn't a lifetime of hardship. It's just a bump. It's a bump on the road. Something bad that you really were not emotionally prepared to deal with, physically prepared to deal with, financially prepared to deal with. But there is a solution available for you. Okay, so there's hope in this card. It's not just all sad, poor, these poor people in the background, in the foreground. Look in the background. Look in the background. Look at the details on the card. Okay? We talked, I want to just say, there's a few more here. Oh, okay, wait a minute. These two, I just use these two cards I have out because I was just talking about them in previous videos. But we have the Eight of Swords, which we see. We talked about this I think last week. Eight of Swords. She's having a difficulty. She feels entrapped. She's afraid to move. She doesn't know where she can step, right? But the positive, what's the positive in this? Well, the positive is very easy to see from looking at the card. First of all, those swords are not in front of her. She could step forward and she could be free from them. But also, she's not bound tightly. She could very easily, from this picture, get her arms out of her wrappings and take that blindfold off and see where she's going. She just needs to change a little bit. Change her way of looking at things. Look from a different direction. Right? Don't be afraid to try. She's got to try. So all you have is your ability to try. That's what it's telling you. Okay? And here we go. We just talked about this a few minutes ago, I think. The Ten of Swords, the same thing. We see the sun coming up on the horizon. The sun coming up on the horizon, we see a lot of that in a lot of tarot. Look for the light. Look where the light is shining. This is not the end of this man's story, him laying here. Remember, it's also Minor Arcana, right? I'm trying to see if there's any other examples I can use. Other cards. But anyway, we have one more. I have one more down here. We haven't talked about yet, I don't think, the Nine of Swords. See, again, there's a lot of them that are in swords that are giving both of these messages because, again, they have to do with communication. They have to do with ideas, things coming into your head. Stinking thinking, as some people would call it, right? Which is why we see so many of these in swords. But anything, remember, anything can be read, both positive and negative. But here we have somebody who might be suffering from nightmares, bad dreams, some kind of guilt or stress, unable to forget something in the past, some kind of suffering in the past, and she's got her eyes covered up by her hands. And there's darkness on the wall beside her. This is when we have to change the way that we're thinking or looking at something. This is what it's reminding you of. Because it's so obvious. She's sitting up. She's past her bad dreams, but she's sitting up in bed, but she has her eyes covered. When you were a little girl or boy and you had a bad dream, what did your mother do when you called out for your mother to come and help you, or your father? My mother used to come in my room and turn the channel. She would call it turning the channel. She would flip my pillow over. I was sleeping on the wrong side of my pillow. Turn it over. I still do this today. I'm 65 years old. And if I have a disturbing dream, I turn my pillow over. Another thing that I do, I learned as an adult, somebody told me, if you're having a bad dream or bad, to look outside. Look outside, which is very easy for me to do because my bedroom, my bedroom joins my bathroom area, which leads to the outside. There's a French door there in my dressing area. And so if I get up in the night to use the bathroom or whatever, I have to go past this door. So if it's any light out at all and I'm having a bad dream, I can look outside and it's gone. It's completely gone from my thing. So this is what she needs to do. Open her eyes and take a look. Look at something. Break that pattern. Break that endless loop that's playing in her head. That film that's going on and on and on over and over again that she's watching in her head, and to move away from it. A lot of the cards, have so much story to them that, this is why I always say live with the cards about. You'll see the longer you look, the longer you'll see. I don't know if we've talked about the Hermit card before, but the Hermit card is a really interesting card because the Hermit there's so much story in this card. Obviously when you think about a hermit, you think about somebody who's been away, living isolated up on a mountain perhaps. Since he's looking down, he's probably looking down from his mountain. And usually this card is telling you that he's separated himself for a period of reflection, whatever. But the time is over and he really needs to come down from his mountain. It's time for him to come down. Well, we look at it and we go, what is a treacherous? It looks, we don't see the mountain. It might be very scary, very treacherous. How's he going to get down? Well, we do see, and he's been gone for so long, is he going to be able to do that? Is he going to be able to come back and face what he needs to face? Well, we look and we see other symbols in this card, and we see he has a very short staff. We see that he has a lantern with a very bright light inside, a star. And we also don't see what's below him. It could be it could be like a little tiny step. Just like the tower, we don't see what's below. That's the kind of cards that I like, because then you can use your imagination to see what maybe is below. Look and see how it's dealing with the other cards. Anyway, I don't want to go on too much about this subject, but I do want to say it's very, very important. When I pull cards out of my deck for whatever reason, I put them back in randomly because I go from one shuffle to the next. Some people put their cards back in order between readings. I never do. I shuffle them so much when I first get a new deck before I ever try to read them, because I do not want to. I want to have a good reading. I don't want it to be so much in order. Just while I'm talking, I'm just going to give it a little shuffle so I can get some of them turned. The way I shuffle them, you see when I do this kind of a shuffle, it's flipping, so I have reversals. And not, some are reversed and some are not. Anyway, so when you're looking at a card, okay, I just want to sum this up a little bit. I don't want to go too long. I just want to say, when you're looking at a card in the tarot deck, do not ever just take it as all positive, all negative. Even a card that looks to be all positive, there is a warning, always a caution, always something that goes along with that card. Check the position that's in and check how it's relating to the other cards. Remember, is this a major arcana? Is it a minor arcana? Remember, is this having to do with emotions? Is this having to do with thoughts or feelings, other people? These kind of things all take into play when you're looking at your meanings. Okay, so live with the meanings as much as you can, but don't let any card knock you over backwards in your chair, like the Death card or the Devil card. Don't That's not what it means. It's not what you could mean death. Now I can't say, but death could mean death. Yes, it could mean death, but it's not the card. The death card is not about the death. It's about what comes after the death. Right? Okay. That's enough. I talk too much. I know I talk too much. Thank you for watching. I hope these little lessons, these little exercises that I'm giving you help you a little bit. And if you have any questions, yes, please feel free to ask them. And if there's something that other people can benefit with, I'll do a little video to help answer those questions. Okay, so anyway, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. I am the good wife, Rebecca, and I wish you blessings.